Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Now if I do look a little bit disheveled and tired and just a little bit rough, I apologise for that. I've had such a lovely day, but in the tail end of it, like the last 45 minutes before I was getting ready to go home, I got a migraine basically, or one was brewing. As soon as I got home, I just, conked out. I felt so ill. I've just come out of it now that I'm feeling so much better. The pain and the nausea is gone, so I think my medication, although I took it a bit later than I should have, it's kicked in now, so I'm feeling more, not necessarily awake, I feel just tired, but I'm feeling more like alive, I guess. And I really want to come on here and do my April wrap up because I want to get it up relatively early into the new month. So without further ado, let's just get started. I've just realised now I haven't got my glasses. That's why I might start squinting, because everything is a blur. So just for a little bit of the quick stats before we get into the actual books and, you know, the meat and potatoes of the video. In total I read 7 books again. I feel like I'm averaging of that the last couple of months. Before that I was hitting like 11 books, 12 books, but it's definitely kind of slowed down now. I may have burnt myself out, or it may be the fact that I am just kind of reading chunkier books, although that doesn't really show in today's wrap up. I have quite a few carryovers that are going into May that are chunkier, some buddy reads coming up. I just think I've been taking my time with bigger books generally, because I've been off for the past couple of weeks between jobs, so I've definitely had the time. But I think, yeah, it's just, I also might just not be picking up books. I don't know, there's a lot that's factoring in basically. Out of those books, let's see, I had one that I classed as fantasy, one that I classed as sci-fi, 4 that I said was like in the category generalised as non-fiction, memoir or poetry, 1 that was contemporary, and 2 I think that was considered classic. I also, in terms of my audience tracker, had 1 that was YA, 1 that was more like adult based or targeted at, and I believe 3 that could be considered middle grade children, that sort of thing. Ah, thank you. You're so silly. I'm going to be annoying and rude and eat whilst I talk, or talk whilst I eat. So in terms of format, well, 7 of those were physical books, so I didn't finish any ebooks this month. 2 of those I considered kind of new releasing, so that's like from 2020 onwards, and 6 of those I had recently hauled, again 2020 onwards. I did take part in like 3 challenges, whether they were readathons, buddy reads, that sort of thing, and I guess a little spoiler for next month, I didn't get those finished, so they'll probably be carried over and hopefully finished in May, so keep an eye out on those. But just to quickly go through those, I won't necessarily tell you what I read maybe, but I took part in the Spring into Horror Seasons of Reading, which I didn't complete. The Book of Sins book club pick, I didn't read that in time for the, not live show, just like the Teams meeting where they discussed the book, so I sort of just took my time and picked it up in a couple of days. And I also did a buddy read with Deborah from Hills of Books on Instagram. So again, I'll talk to you guys a little bit more about those books when I actually complete them next month. However, I have been doing some reading vlogs, so stay tuned for those, because I'm pretty sure I talk about some of these books that I haven't yet finished, as well as some of the books that I have finished. So that was a lot of blabber, I do apologise. Let's get into the actual reviews. So the first book, or the first couple of books I don't actually have to hand. They were birthday presents for my nephew who turned 4, and so I've already gifted them to him, but I want to read them beforehand just to make sure that they were definitely like something he could enjoy, and just because I had an interest, like I can't gift books. And well, this is different. If I'm gifting for an adult, then maybe it's a book that I've already read and owned, but if I'm buying a new book for someone like my nephew, I'll just quickly read it and then give it to him. Do you know what I mean? It's not necessarily always the case, but there are only a couple of pages each, if you know what I mean. So the first one was Jojo and Gran Gran Visit the Farm, which I gave a 5 stars. This one released in 2021 this year, and it's like contemporary children's, published by Cake, which is an imprint of Hodder and Stoughton Limited. Limited. So this is actually based off of a TV show that I think is relatively new to CBeebies. I remember one of my older cousins told me about it coming out, and she said, oh, I know you're into like your story, especially with like black lead characters and stuff like that, and this might be nice for you to like check out, because she knows I watch like cartoons and stuff as well. And when I was thinking of what books to get for my nephew, I thought, oh, I wonder if that show, which I've still not checked out yet, has any books. And they had 2, so I got this one for him. And yeah, it was such a cute little story, which I hope will remind my nephew of his grandma, my mum, who passed away, and of me as well, because I used to work at a farm. And yeah, I hope he gets a lot of enjoyment out of it, and just the gentle like bond between Jojo and her gran. I just thought it was so sweet. I love the illustrations, especially because they have like hair textured. I wish I had a copy to show you, but like the way they draw them looks very like cartoony and like 2D, but then the way they do their hair is, it looks like almost a photograph put on but blended nicely. And I really like that, because I feel like so many times black children are ridiculed for their hair, like being thick, curly, untamable, all that sort of stuff. And I thought the fact that they highlighted that, and that's the thing that stood out, and done in such a nice way, was just a soft little bit of, you know, good affirmations. It's you know, this is beautiful, this is you, you know. I really liked it. I also really enjoyed the random little bit of education on chickens. It actually reminded me of when I worked at the farm. We had to do during like Easter time and springtime little chick chats, what they're called, chick hatchery chats, and it just reminded me of that. I feel like Elsa's going to jump up at some point. I can hear her under the bed lurking. Next up, I read Here We Are, Notes for Living on Planet Earth by Oliver Jeffers, which I gave a 4 stars. This one was released a little bit later on. I think she's down here. Hello. In 2017. Again, it's children's, but this one's non-fiction, because it's actually looking at planet Earth and kind of softly teaching about the world that we inhabit. And this one was published by HarperCollins Children's Books. So yeah, this again, it's pretty much about planet Earth and living on planet Earth. A few facts thrown in there, some beautiful illustrations. The book itself was beautifully crafted, vibrant colours, but like not in a distracting, loud, in your face way. I feel like there was just enough information in there that could have sparked curiosity to do further research and just further interest in pursuing that knowledge. I will say, although it had just enough information, it also could have done with like a few more facts in there as well. But other than that, it was enjoyable, really beautiful book to look through. The next book I have is A Song Below Water by Bethany C. Morrow. This one I gave a 3 stars. It's a slightly newer release. It came out in 2020, published by Tor Teen. Yeah, I was actually really hyped to get to this one. So this is really interesting with all the themes that it provides. It's about like almost like the Black Lives Matter movement, but also with the underlying threat of being a siren. And in this world, only black females can be sirens, so they've got this stigma of being black and being a target anyway for violence and other inequalities, but also the other layered threat of being a siren and how dangerous that is, because they're so stigmatized as to having this voice that can make people do what they wouldn't usually do. And it's interesting with just thinking about it now, that conversation of using your voice and how being black, your voice is silenced oftentimes, and as a siren that also kind of brings to the forefront of they're not allowed to use their voice because their voice has so much power and it intimidates and scary and all that sort of stuff. So I thought it was a really cool concept. The themes I was super excited for. I also loved the sisterhood between our 2 main characters. We're following Tavia and Effie, and I thought it was amazing how they kind of communicated with each other, especially because they both knew American Sign Language, and I thought the use of that in this was amazing too. And they're not like blood sisters, they are like a found family, so it was really lovely and heartwarming to see like an acceptance there and how much they appreciated and needed each other. It was just that bond was beautiful. However, unfortunately, as I say, I was quite hyped for this one, and you may have noticed reflected in my 3 stars that it wasn't quite like at the bar that I was hoping for. And I just feel like the main reason for that was that there was just too many themes that weren't all fleshed out to the same level. I just feel like we didn't have, I feel like the author had a lot of ideas, especially a lot of current relevant ideas, and kind of to be on topic and get this out there whilst all this was happening, but it just lost its focus because it was too many amazing things going on at once. Like, to me, on surface level, this had all the things I was interested in. It had the idea of LARPing, live action role play, so it had that geeky fun element I love. It had sirens. I've been wanting to read more like books based around sirens and mermaids, because they're some of my most favourite mythical creatures. Black Lives Matter, obviously that's quite a big part of my life, especially since the summer of last year, where everything was going crazy, and you know, it's still a thing, it's still something that needs to be talked about. So seeing that in a fantasy book was amazing. I want to read about it. It's got this found family. It had this interesting family dynamic, you know, a character I could relate with, although I didn't know at the time until I started reading about you know, they've lost a parent, they have an absent parent, that sort of thing, and it just sounded like perfect. But I feel like it just lost focus. There was too many things crammed in that just didn't get executed to such an excellent level that it could have done, I feel. Yeah, it just fell a little bit flat. I still enjoyed it, but I just found myself thinking, Jesus, this is just, there's too much going on, especially for such a tiny book. Maybe if it was slightly longer, we would have had more time to kind of get into the grit of it. But yeah, it just felt a little bit too messy, I think, unfortunately. But I would recommend it if you like those sort of themes. Just go into it knowing that everything won't be tied nicely, everything won't be on the same level, if you know what I mean. Next up, I read Ain't I a Woman? Black Women and Feminism by Bell Hooks, and this was published originally in 1982. It's a bit of non-fiction, published by Pluto Press Classics. This one I gave a 4 stars, and honestly, this is exactly what I was after. When I purchased this, I was hoping it was going to hit the spot of particularly black feminism and what that means, and the differences between general feminism, which is really kind of just aimed at white feminism, but also the conversation of what it means to be a woman, not only in feminism terms, but being black, being amongst your black male counterparts, and how they've been suppressed. And yeah, there was just so much in this, and basically I wanted to get to this one because I had read Why I No Longer Talk to White People About Race by Reniero Lodge, which I've got a review on, and I was really interested in the feminism sections of it. And I thought, you know, doing my little research, and I think she cited this author in this book as well, I thought this might be a nice kind of tight topic to just give me all the information I'm after in one place. And although this isn't like the be all and end all, it's just like one perspective and that sort of thing, I thought like this was a good place to kind of continue that interest on. Yeah, basically honing into feminism and what that means, and I really did enjoy it. I enjoyed that it didn't just focus and discuss slavery, which a lot of the time, even in this book, it says like the black women had to kind of ignore one problem to focus on another, because otherwise it would have taken away the fire from one part. So a lot of the time it was like, well, you have to go on about the black rights movement because that's the most important out of that and feminism, that you can't go for both apparently. But there's more to it. But I like how it didn't just focus on slavery, but it focused on like sexual politics, again feminism obviously, and just so much like what it was like trying to get into that bubble of feminism and how they were treated, but also like how like the women's liberation movement was trying to kind of recruit them so that they couldn't be seen as racist, yet they were still racist. It was just amazing. Like I tabbed quite a few pieces in this. This was such a good read. incredibly absorbing. I felt at first that it might be a bit dense, especially when you look at it, like it does look kind of, you know, very academic, but it was so easy to fall into. I will say though, in terms of something that brings it down a little bit, it just sometimes, I don't want to say it sounds like a manifesto because it doesn't, but it is a bit repetitive in times that it makes you think like, okay, yeah, I get it, like why are you trying to convince me? Do you know what I mean? Like it kind of gives that almost passion to the point of almost trying to push the thoughts onto you, but like it just needed to be a bit more like factual based. Yeah, have the passion, but don't let that get carried away if you're trying to present something as fact. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I really did enjoy this one. Next up, I read another book that I gifted to my nephew, and that was Little Leaders, Exceptional Men in Black History by Howdee-haie, and this one I gave a 5 stars. Published in 2019 by Puffin Books. It's like a children's middle grade again, non-fiction. Again, the title kind of says it all. It's focusing on powerful black men in history. So yeah, this was super inspiring. It had quite a varied amount of people, a lot of people that I hadn't heard of, and I actually really like that it had this kind of softer focus on lesser known men. It definitely did include some of like the big names and stuff, but I like how it didn't go straight into all these people that you would have heard of already, you know. Illustrations as usual with these books, these little factual books, beautiful. I love the art style, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. Next up, a little random book actually. This is Kate Bush, How to Be Invisible, and this I gave it 5 stars. It was published in 2018 by Faber and Faber and is non-fiction. It's strange because it's actually a book of lyrics. I've spoken a little bit about this across a few different vlogs actually, but in case you're not interested in watching those, I'll just give you my spiel now. I love Kate Bush. I feel like she is such an incredible artist. She's so unique, she's so interesting, her songs are so varied yet, you know, very her. And I've been on this hunt to try and find a biography or an autobiography about her for so long. I've still yet to find one that I'm interested in picking up, but I came across this in my searches, and it's basically a book of lyrics. Like, it's just got her songs. It's got like a little introduction at the beginning, kind of talking more in depth about the music, about her style, that sort of stuff, but for the most part it is literally just lyrics, and I kind of read it and sang along to it as if it was poetry, and just I really enjoyed this experience. It definitely took me like 2 months or so to get through, but yeah, it was so fun experience, and a lot of songs that I hadn't heard before. Like, I would call myself a Kate Bush fan, but there was so, like, I had my favourites, you know what I mean? You know when you just get into an artist and you hear quite a good amount of songs, but you stick to your like favourite album or favourite selection. So I didn't really push past after I found the taste that I like from her sampling, you know? But oh my gosh, this really pushed me out there. Like, there's just so many different genres within her as an artist that I can really appreciate. It actually has given me an even greater appreciation of her as a creative individual. Like, it's just astounding how all this can be in someone's head, and just how it all comes together for us to appreciate and fall in love with. I just thought it was so cool. Yeah, it's really interesting how she can just weave a story from everything. And I also noticed more than ever, I feel like, through proper like taking the time to read and listen at the same time, she has a lot of influences from a lot of different cultures, but instead of kind of like ridiculing it or kind of making it her own and not honouring it, I feel like she does it in such a respectful way that it makes you appreciate other sounds and like styles and way of making music from other cultures. And I feel like it could give you, again, just a general greater appreciation of music as a whole. So yeah, I really liked this. And then lastly, I was hoping to finish at least one other book after this one, but I didn't, and to be honest, I'm not too bitter about it because it became my favourite book of the month, and that is The Colour Purple by Alice Walker. And I feel like a lot of you guys are going to be releasing the breath you didn't know you was holding because I have been putting this on TBR after TBR and then never getting to it, and then I got myself into this kind of like vicious cycle where I think I hyped myself too much up, I put too much expectation on it, and I worried. If you guys don't know, this was a favourite book of my mum's, and this is actually her copy, and I was worrying. I was getting to the point where I was like so in my head, like, oh my god, what if I don't like it, what if I don't like it, and then I just kept putting it off. And I mean, it wouldn't matter if I didn't like it, I could still appreciate that it would have been, you know, it was my mum's favourite book, but I didn't want a negative experience with that on my mind as well. Anyway, finally got to it, guys. 5 stars. 5 stars. And honestly, that's not like, it's not a biased representation by any means, because you will know if you've read the first page of this, at least, it's filled with abuse. There's so many trigger warnings I could give you. Like, it is a heavy book, and books like that I don't read often, and when I do, I can't say I've enjoyed it because it's such a difficult topic. But I've got to say, like, this, wow, this one had so much hope in it. There was just, oh, I haven't even told you the stats yet. So this was published in 1983 originally by Weidenfeld and Nicholson, and it's like adult classic. Anyway, I really just got sucked into this story. If you guys don't know what it's about, it's basically set in like deep South America. It says between the wars, and it's about a story of Celie, who is a young girl that's basically had so much crap in her life. She's been abused by her father figure for so many years non-stop, and the only person that she loves and cares about, her sister Nettie, I always call her Nellie, basically they lose touch. And it's like you're just reading this point of view of Celie trying to kind of just live life, but she's gone from one abusive household to another, and it's just, she's really treated poorly, she's not respected, she's not cared for, and she's not loved. And it's just, the main bulk of the book is about her writing letters to God, and basically that's how she sort of copes and stays sort of present in the world, you know, like thinking, well, you know, judgment will come, all of this, like at least I've got God to talk to, you know what I mean? But there is more to this than just that part, if that's not gripped you. But it is such a beautiful story. I really got sucked into Celie's life. I cared about her so much, despite the very traumatic happenings of this book, which, you know, is quite a big portion of this book. It doesn't really ever go away. It definitely has a lot of uplifting content, sorry, to kind of battle that part and make it a little bit easier to read, if you know what I mean. I loved how sort of sexual and spiritually liberating this book became, and also how it was discussed and kind of shown, particularly at this time, you know, during history. Like, it must have been difficult to kind of feel certain things and kind of express certain things without really getting prosecuted for it and stuff like that. But I just love that sort of conversation on being free and liberated, and it was amazing. I'm so glad I finally read this. It's probably a favourite book of all time, to be honest. So I'm going to check out the movie at some point. Hopefully I enjoy that, and it's just another source to kind of consume. But that is it. Thank you so much for watching this video. Do let me know what you read during April, perhaps what your favourite or least favourite book of the month was, and I shall catch you in another video soon. I think I have a couple of reading vlogs coming up again for May, so keep your eye out. Thanks for watching. See you guys later.